A question I always get from people who are thinking about investing in real estate is real estate a lot of work? I always have a hard time answering this question because it really all depends on what you invest in and how you invest. In this video, I'm going to talk about the different types of real estate investing and how much work is involved in each type. If you're more interested in how much work is involved in managing your own properties, click this link for my Is Property Management a Lot of Work video. Real estate can be absolutely no work and you just sit there and collect checks every month. Or it could be grueling work where you're patching up the roof in 100-degree weather. The answer isn't a simple yes or no. The key factor is what type of investor you are and also what you invest in. So in this video, I'm going to go over some of the common ways you can invest in real estate and let you know how active or passive that type of investment is. I personally chose the way that requires a lot of work, but watch till the end of the video so you can find out why. Most people don't want to do a lot of work, so let's start off with the no work required method. So if you want to invest in real estate but you don't really want to do a lot of work, your best bet is REITs. An REIT is basically a company that owns and manages income-producing real estate. They sell shares of their company to investors and pay them dividends regularly. So if you buy shares of an REIT, it's basically like buying a dividend stock, except the gains are correlated with the real estate market. The cons of REITs is that you don't actually own any real property. You just basically own shares in a company. So you don't get to take advantage of the tax benefits associated with real estate. Now, the next step up from REITs in terms of doing work is commercial real estate. In commercial real estate, there's a type of lease called the triple net lease. A triple net lease is basically a lease that makes the tenants responsible for almost everything. The owner is basically only responsible for the structure of the building. The tenants take care of the property tax, the tenants take care of the insurance, and the tenants even maintain the property. You basically only have to deal with a leaky roof or say something flew into your building and it caused damage to a wall or something. Very minimal amount of work. The cons to something like this is you generally get a smaller return than if you were to buy something that's residential. You also generally need to deal with longer vacancies. It's quite normal to have a commercial property be vacant for several months. And also when you do find a new tenant, it's common practice to give the new tenant a couple months for free so they have time to build out their new store. You actually need to keep a decent amount of money on the side so you have enough money to pay the bank while the property is vacant or while the tenant is renovating their new store. You generally get a smaller return than if you were to buy something that's residential. Speaking of which, residential is the next step up. The thing with residential real estate is you can basically choose how involved you want to be. Now, residential real estate is a lot more work than commercial real estate because you have to manage tenants. You have to take care of the tenants' complaints as well as the maintenance issues. But there's a whole wide range of how involved you can be. So on one side, you can hire a property manager to take care of everything. A property manager can get tenants for you, a property manager can take the complaints for you, a property manager can hire contractors to take care of the maintenance issues. On the other end, you can self-manage. But if you self-manage, you have to deal with all the complaints, you have to deal with all the maintenance issues. It requires a lot more work. I personally chose to self-manage because right now I'm still young and I have the energy to do more work, so I'd rather have a higher return. If I hire a property manager or if I hire a contractor every single time there's a little issue, it eats away at a lot of the profits. Sure, you have a lot more free time, but right now I want to make more money. So the beauty about residential real estate is you can choose to do a lot of work or you can choose to do less work. You can even choose to do which work you want to do. So for instance, you can manage the property yourself, and when there's complaints or maintenance issues, you can hire a contractor to take care of it. Or you can hire a property manager, and if you're a handy person, handle the maintenance yourself. You basically have that choice. So for instance, if you have to repaint an apartment, you can hire a painter to come and spend $2,000 to repaint that apartment, but you save your entire day. Or if you're like me, you can just go to Home Depot, spend a couple $100s on a couple gallons of paint, and then paint the apartment yourself, therefore making an extra $2,000. The choice is really yours. Right now, I'm still young, so I'll definitely do the painting. But maybe when I'm 50 years old, or even when I'm 40, if I have kids and I want to spend more time with my family, then I have that choice of hiring somebody. Regardless of if I hire a property manager, I would definitely still screen my own tenants though, because sometimes property managers may not be that careful and a bad tenant might slip through the cracks. So you definitely still want to screen your own tenants. If you're not familiar about how to screen a tenant, here's a link to my tenant screening video. Now, the last most intense form of real estate investing is flipping and development. Flipping is basically when somebody buys a property that is really messed up and they put a lot of work into it to fix it up and then resell it. This form of investing requires a lot of work because the houses that you get require a lot of work. Now, when I say a lot of work, I mean a lot of work. It's literally a full-time job and it actually has a lot of risks tied to it. TV shows like HGTV have romanticized the idea of buying a house, doing a little bit of work, and then selling it for massive amounts of profits every single time. But the reality of it is, it's not that simple. A lot of people jump into flips without having any idea what they're doing and they just lose a lot of money. You actually need to know exactly what you're doing. You need to be able to pull your comps right. Imagine buying a house thinking that you can sell it for $500,000 after you fix it up, but you can only actually sell it for $450,000. Well, you might have lost $50,000 because now you can't sell it for what you thought you were going to sell it for. Or imagine if you thought this flip was going to cost $35,000 to fix up. It ends up costing $85,000. You lost another $50,000. If you don't know what you're doing, your risk is way, way higher. If you know what you're doing, then you can minimize that risk and actually make money. Now, I'm not saying this to try to scare anyone. I just want to show the other side of things, the side that HGTV doesn't show. The point is that real estate investing can be really lucrative, but you need to know what you're doing. So education is key. You really have to take one step at a time and start small. You can't just expect to jump into a 20-unit building and make a ton of money. Maybe start off with a single family or duplex and then work your way up. Start off with a normal deal before thinking about flipping. So the next level up from flipping is developing. Development is basically starting from scratch and building something from the ground up. Most developers have to look for a piece of land, find the architect, find the project manager, and then figure out what they can build, find the contractor, and then make sure the contractor builds the structure properly. You might not be doing a lot of the physical work yourself, but there's so much going on that you're gonna have to manage so many different professions at the same time. The developer needs to find a piece of land, he needs to make the numbers work, he needs to negotiate the deal for the piece of land, buy the piece of land. Then if that piece of land has any structure on it, he needs to tear down that structure. Then they need to come up with the dust mitigation plan, which is to make sure the neighbor's property doesn't get too much dust when you're doing construction. You got to come up with the noise mitigation plan. You have to come up with the safety plan. And all of this before you put down the first shovel. Then you have to excavate for the foundation. You got to excavate for the sewer line. You got to excavate for the water service. You got to put in the utilities. There's a lot of prep work before you actually even start building the building itself. You can just imagine how much work it takes to coordinate all of this. But if done right, you can make millions of dollars from just one deal. On the flip side, it can fail miserably. You need to know exactly what you're doing and also be on top of everything, or you're just gonna lose a lot of money. There's actually a building in my neighborhood about 2 blocks away from where I live. The developer built a 6-story building, 10 units, and listed the building for $8.5 million. This was several years ago. That building still hasn't sold. The price has dropped to about $6.5 million, and it's been vacant for years. His idea was to buy the land, build a luxury building, sell it off, and make a quick profit. So now he's stuck with a vacant building with cabinets from years ago. He has the cherry wood cabinets with the granite countertops, which was at the time very luxurious, but nowadays everyone's going for the modern look with the white cabinets and the marble countertops. That building is no longer seen as luxurious. So he's just losing money every single day because he can't sell it for what he wants, and he doesn't want to rent it because he's still trying to sell it. And even if he does rent it, he can't get the rents that he originally projected. I'm sure this guy's kicking himself right now. Oh, I lied. The form of real estate investing that actually takes the most work is syndications. Syndications are basically deals where you find a property, then you gather a bunch of investors, form a company, and then use the company's money to purchase this property. The syndicator is basically the person who puts the deal together and usually the person who manages everything. So if it's a development deal, then not only do you have to do what all the developers do, you have to put together this group of investors and then make sure that everyone is happy. If it's just an acquisition deal, then it's much simpler, but then you also have to make sure that all the investors are happy. Have you heard the term, there's too many cooks in the kitchen? You have to be the one to calm everyone down and control the situation. I hope with this video you have a better understanding of the different types of real estate investing and also what is involved with each type. With this knowledge, you should be able to answer the is real estate a lot of work for yourself. So what do you think? Is real estate a lot of work? Please leave your answer in the comments below. And if you've liked this video, please hit the like button. And if you want to see more videos about real estate, personal finance, or just saving money in general, please hit the subscribe button. That's it for me.